Welcome to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We have a fantastic night of SEC gymnastics for you. A top 20 matchup as number 7 LSU hosts 20th ranked Auburn. Hi there again, along with former Olympic silver medalist and 3-time NCAA champion Sam Peshek. I'm Alex Perlman. Glad to see you again as well. And Sam, this Auburn team coming in strong. Off of a big win over Alabama, their first since 2016. This team is rolling on all cylinders and they're reaching new heights.
Absolutely. They said they didn't even celebrate too much. They just wanted to get back in the gym and to improve what they messed up the last weekend. But their confidence started from last year, gaining confidence from beating those top-ranked teams like LSU. So if today they're able to pull out the win, it's only going to help their confidence from here on out.
And it would be the second straight season that Auburn has taken down LSU. Last year, it was a record setter. 5-2 in the SEC regular season, the first time Auburn had ever won 5 SEC meets, and they are led by one fantastic all-arounder, Drew Watson, who won the all-around last week against Alabama.
She is such a ray of sunshine for this Auburn team. Not only does she bring experience, but she brings difficulty, especially for this young Auburn team. And my favorite part about watching her do gymnastics is that she makes it look so easy. She's explosive, dynamic, and she does it with a smile.
Won the all-around with a 39.425 last week. And they're going to need Drew Watson to have a huge meet against LSU because we know they don't rebuild, they reload. And that is the case for Dede Bro coming off of a national runner-up against Oklahoma. Weren't able to get it done once again, but still they said they won second, and they're looking at that as a positive, not a negative.
They, even though they lost a great senior class, have a bunch of freshmen stepping into those shoes. But when we spoke to head coach Dede Bro about the season, she said they're a little bit frustrated that their slow start to this season. They're hoping to fire on all cylinders here tonight.
Kaya Johnson has been fantastic in the all-around this season. 39.525, she won the event at Georgia last week. Don't go anywhere, we have a fantastic meet coming up for you. Sam and I are back in just a few moments, but for now, we'll send it to PA announcer Mike Smith.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our visitors from the plains of Auburn, Alabama, the Auburn Tigers gymnastics team. Here are the Tigers: Aria Brush, Emma Snappy, Morgan Lee Oldham, Piper Smith, Gracie Day, Drew Watson, Adeline Sabados, Sabrina Cheney, Darion Goborn, Katie Becker, Meredith Sylvia, Kendall Moss, Cassie Stevens, Jada Glenn, Elise Pansner, and Skylar Shepard. The coaching staff for Auburn assistants are Ashley Johnston and Kurt Henninger, and the head coach of the Auburn Tigers is Jeff Graba. Ladies and gentlemen, the Auburn Tigers. And now, Tiger fans, it's now time to take out your phones, open the Tiger Lights app. Let's use your microphone and let's light up the PMAC for your LSU Fighting Tigers.
Bring them out, bring them out, bring them out, bring them out. It's hard to yell when the bell rings in your mouth. Bring them out, bring them out. Hey. Bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, bring them out. Hey. Bring them out, bring them out.
VIP coming live from the VIP. Heard the nightlife, cross life without me. Both heads in the state, wanna see my knee. The whole city got this, heard he got 3. The other one down here, sorry, now. Who said he city on fire soon as he got free? The king back now. I don't even know how to act now. Hit the club, strippers getting naked for a sex.
And here come your three-time defending champions of the Southeastern Conference, your Fighting Tigers of LSU. And let's meet the Tigers. A freshman from Orlando, Florida, Courtney Goodrich. This Tiger is a former international elite and JO national champion. A freshman from the Big D, Aya Johnson. A freshman from Houston, Texas. Please welcome Lexi Hibbs. A former JO national qualifier and a freshman from Houston, Texas. Please welcome Maddie Rao. This Tiger is a two-time JO national champion and JO national qualifier. A freshman from Detroit, Michigan, Ty Rivers. This Tiger is from Luling, Louisiana. Please welcome freshman Cameron Ryan. A former U.S. elite national team member. A freshman from Evergreen, Colorado, Alona Shinakova. This Tiger is a former JO national qualifier and now a sophomore from New Orleans, Rebecca D'Antonio. Please welcome an All-American on the balance beam, a junior from Coppell, Texas, Reagan Campbell. This Tiger is a junior from Fort Myers, Florida, Bridget Dean. An All-American and an All-SEC performer, now a junior from Hackettstown, New Jersey, Christina Desiderio. An All-SEC performer, now a junior from Athens, Georgia, Sammy Durante. This Tiger is an All-American and an All-SEC performer, now a junior from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, Sarah Edwards. Please welcome this Tiger, now a junior from Mandeville, Olivia Gunter. She is an All-SEC performer and an All-American, a senior from Bristol, England. Say hey, Ruby Harold. And Tiger fans, a 17-time All-American, the 2017 NCAA Vault National Champion, and the reigning NCAA Vault Champion, now a senior from Chino, California, Kennedy Edney. And now, Tiger fans, let's welcome your coaching staff in her 10th season as volunteer assistant coach, 5-time All-American, 2-time national champion, Ashley Claire Kearney Thigpen. In his 21st season as an assistant coach, he has coached the most vault national champions in the history of collegiate gymnastics. Let's welcome and say happy birthday to Bob Moore. In his 8th season here at LSU, he has coached the most bars national champions in the history of collegiate gymnastics. Please welcome co-head coach Jay Clark. Tiger fans, now in her 43rd season as your head coach of the Fighting Tigers, the longest serving head coach in the history of the Southeastern Conference, please welcome D.D. Rowe. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you continue standing and kindly remove your hats as we honor America and remember those in our service with our national anthem, performed tonight by Elise LeBlanc.
Oh, say, can you see God's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, how about Elise LeBlanc with our national anthem?
Leading the way for the Tigers of Auburn.
Well, she brings difficulty to this lineup, but most importantly, she brings experience, and it's an extremely young Auburn team, so she's giving them guidance, maturity along the way. But my favorite part about watching her compete is how easy she makes everything look.
Bookends for LSU, Kennedy Edney, the senior, and Kaya Johnson, who was the all-around champion in a big win for LSU at Georgia last week, taking down the Gym Dogs. We are just about ready to start rotation number 1 of the evening. LSU will be on vault, and Auburn will be on bars to start things off, with LSU, of course, the home team, and 5-10-0 start values for the Tigers.
The coaches say they're still identifying who they are as a team, but typically they're known as a powerful team, and that shows up in vault. Dee Bro, head coach, reminded us that it didn't show up in their landings, but it did show up with how powerful they are and the difficulty they bring.
Kai Rivers begins things. 3 of the 6 vaulters are freshmen for LSU, tied for the number 3 vault rotation in the country, coming off of a big win on the road in Athens.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for the first rotation.
For Auburn, they are fired up to be competing at LSU, a tough environment on the road. They just competed in front of their home fans and knocked off Alabama for the first time since 2016. Program on the rise for sure. Kai Rivers added to Troy, the only Tiger to stick her vault last week against Georgia.
And this is where the strategy comes into play. She's going to be their only Yurchenko layout full, and you can't get a better Yurchenko layout full than that. Phenomenal. Look how stretched she is on the table. Her arms were locked. You see her one arm flares out and then the other. That's when you know she is exactly where she is supposed to be. Phenomenal start.
Exactly what you want out of your leadoff. Should be a big score for the freshman Kai Rivers. And Auburn on bars. Cassie Stevens begins things. Newcomer from Phoenix, a 9-7 last week against Alabama.
Good job hitting those handstands. Jeff Graba knows that they will be a better team if they get more of their freshmen involved, but he didn't want to throw them in the lineup too quickly. He said after the first meet, he saw that they put 3 freshmen back-to-back, and it worked, starting off with Cassie Stevens.
And so the rules of a dual meet in college gymnastics. We're going to see 6 gymnasts per team compete. Only the best 5 scores will count. The lowest will be dropped. Highest cumulative score wins after 4 of the apparatus are done, and then that is the order. It is Olympic order for the home team, so maybe a touch of an advantage finishing on floor.
Finishing on floor, just you get so much adrenaline from the crowd, especially being at home.
Maddie Rao, her first ever routine at LSU came last week, a 9.775 against Georgia. Only joined the team last Monday. What a story she is.
Yurchenko, 1.5, and actually much better than I saw in warm-up.
She originally committed to Rutgers, but some disruption in that program. LSU saw her at a camp and asked her, Sam, to graduate high school early to come to Baton Rouge because they need her on vault.
What a good story, but I can't imagine just how difficult freshman year is in general to get a late start to everything and then be thrown into competition season.
Here is Adeline Sabados. We're continuing the newcomer theme here at the PMAC out of Castle Rock, Colorado. 6th on bars at Junior Olympic Nationals.
Big release move to get things started on bars, and really like how she's hitting all of her handstands so far. Jeff Graba said the detail work is what they were hoping from last week to this week, and handstands is a big part of that. Stretching her hips. Looks like she stuck the landing and then actually got a deduction when she went to salute. It'll be interesting to see what the judges do with that.
Jeff Graba, the head coach in his 10th season of Auburn, was telling us earlier the 1 and 2 spots in almost every single rotation are up for grabs. Who's going to take it? That's really the question that he's trying to figure out at the beginning of this season. Ruby Harold is a fan favorite out of Bristol, England, the senior, a 2-time Olympian with Great Britain. And trying to better the 9.775 for Kai Rivers and 9.75 for Maddie Rao. Not quite the start Dee Bro was looking for on vault.
We're going to see another Yurchenko, 1.5. Oh, she was so close to that stick position. You see she landed very safely with her knees bent and just was a hair shy with the turnover. Check it out. Good 1.5 block, and her chest was a little bit behind vertical. Just a little bit more. Dee knows that she can have the stick. It's in reach.
Adeline Sabados coming off a 9.825 after Cassie Stevens for Auburn started with a 9.65. And another very talented freshman, Aria Brush out of Cincinnati, a 9.825 last week against Alabama. She's gone above 9.8 both bars routines in college.
She has great technical bar work.
And you'd think at some point she might be an all-arounder for the Tigers.
Good last handstand, working on this stick. Ooh. You can see she put her heels down just a little bit too fast, hiked down. And that's where some of the freshmen mistakes in. You see her body is stretched here, and right before she goes to land, it's what we call trying too hard on that stick.
So here is Sarah Edwards now. Ruby Harold score just posted at 9.825. You see a couple 9.7s up there. Do you start to get, not nervous, but you know the pressure's kind of on towards the end of the rotation?
Of course, you want to build those lineups from start to finish.
She had a 9.875 last week against Georgia. That might be close.
That's going to be better than that. I liked a lot of things about this vault. Starting with her block off the table. Check this out. Her arms are straight. She starts twisting way above vertical. Look at that. Her hips are stretched. She opens out at the perfect time, and her face actually looks surprised, but technically it was a beautiful vault.
Where do you deduct from that?
A little bit on the landing.
Okay.
She moved her foot a little bit.
And now Drew Watson. Her season debut on bars last week, but she is coming off an all-around win against Alabama with a 39.45.
Low on that last handstand. She actually struggled on bars last week, but I give her a lot of props because she could have gone over on a lot of handstands, but that's where you see the maturity kick in. She fought for everything on this routine.
Little off on the landing.
Full score for LSU's Sarah Edwards, 9.95.
This was the biggest biggest deduction I saw in the routine. She just didn't quite get her hips up for her feet to vertical, so that'll be the most significant deduction in this routine. But knocks out that bail, the high to low transition.
And now Kennedy Edney, the two-time national vault champion, including the reigning vault champion. We'll see one of the other ones that tied for a national championship. Darian Goborn for Auburn coming up in the next rotation. 9.95 for Sarah Edwards.
Well deserved. Another Yurchenko 1.5.
Oh.
She makes it look so easy. Different from Sarah Edwards. Sarah Edwards looks like she was surprised when she landed. Kennedy knew she was in the perfect position. She gets that height, she opens up, squeezes the landing right to vertical.
She was the All-American, or all-around champ, that is. She's an All-American in every event and in the all-around, but an all-around champion last week of 39.525, so we'll see her on the all-around as well. Sam, what are we looking for? What will the judges look to deduct or to award?
Those handstands that form on every single skill, and of course the landing at the dismount.
Senior from San Antonio, they'll need a good routine here after Drew Watson's 9.775.
Beautiful, above the bar, Jaeger release move to the overshoot combination right off the top. What I love about Drew on bars is her toe point. She adds the artistry from start to finish. Really nice routine from Drew.
Good to have a bigger salute right there. All SEC as a freshman and a sophomore. And that was a much needed routine. And at this point, you would think Cassie Stevens' 9.65 could be dropped, but Darian Goborn still to go in the anchor slot. And here's the anchor for LSU on vault, Kaya Johnson. Won the vault title with a 9.925 last week at Georgia and the all-around.
And of course, the point of emphasis that we're looking for here are amplitude, form, and landing. But judging by her first two vaults, we're going to see all of them here from Kaya Johnson. Didn't control the landing as good as she did last week, but there's so many things to like about this vault. She gets the amplitude, she gets the height. She just didn't quite open up enough to stretch her hips before the landing. But I do like how vertical her chest is when her feet hit the ground.
Kennedy Edney tied her season high with a 9.925 on vault before Johnson. And here is Goborn to finish things off. She won the bars title against Alabama with a 9.925 last week.
Big Takachev release move to get things going here.
She is a gamer. She lives for these kinds of moments. Clinched the win against Alabama with a 9.95 on the floor.
Hoping to repeat last week's bar routine with the stuff landing here, and she does it. Something tells me she's gonna have a pretty on night here. She loves these big crowds.
Sarah Edwards starting LSU off well on vault, a 9.95. This is how you fire up the crowd in Baton Rouge. With Sam Peshek, I'm Alex Perlman, and this is exactly what both teams wanted to see. LSU tying a season high with a 49.4 on vault. For Auburn, maybe a bit of work to make up, but this is a team that is on the rise after having a meteoric 2019.
Well, I was actually impressed with both teams' landings. On vault, they added that difficulty. We saw lots of 10-0 start value vaults, and they had very clean landings. And just like Auburn on bars, I saw a lot of sticks. It's pretty early in the season for them to be showing up in that way, so I was impressed.
Well, it sure is, and Auburn is on the rise. A win over Alabama last week for the first time since 2016, and Jeff Graba has this program rolling, the three-time SEC Coach of the Year. I mean, last year was a program builder in every single way.
He does such a good job. They don't necessarily get the big name gymnasts right out of JO programs, but Jeff Graba does an amazing job at fostering the talent and actually helping them improve from freshman year all the way to senior year.
And LSU is obviously a program that does not rebuild, they just reload. That's exactly what they did, graduating 4 fantastic seniors, but they have great freshmen. And this is a team that is coming off a runner-up finish in the national championship behind Oklahoma. There's a lot to like about this young team.
Well, you're never going to replace an athlete like Sarah Finnegan, but the coaches did say Kaya Johnson, not only athletically is she stepping into her shoes, but in terms of maturity, that she's already showing signs of leadership. She's very calm in competition, and she's been showing up every single weekend. What's not to like about this freshman?
Johnson and LSU lighting up this Pete Maravich Assembly Center, and a great start through one rotation with LSU leading Auburn 49-4 to 49-2 5. Entertaining in so many different ways, these SEC gymnasts here on SEC Network. SEC Network every Friday night, and next week number 11 Kentucky takes on Arkansas at the Barn in Fayetteville. Friday Night Heights is also streaming live on the ESPN app. Dee Bro, 43rd year looking on as LSU has a lead over Auburn. 0.175 heading into the second rotation and looking very good. That was a strong start on vault, and that is really a strength of this team. Now we'll see how Auburn is able to counter when they head to vault.
Well, they're actually similar teams in a way that there's a lot of freshmen competing, and vault is a strong event for both teams. So it's going to be interesting to see if Auburn can respond here. We saw them struggle a little bit in the warm-up. I know they were dealing with a lot of sickness earlier this week, so just trying to show up and do their best effort here on vault.
A raucous crowd. It is just about sold out inside the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. And Baton Rouge, just in general, Sam, has been going absolutely crazy since what happened Monday night transpired with the national title, the 4th ever in football.
I can't imagine as a student athlete feeling that energy, and you have to imagine that it has inspired them here getting ready for this meet.
Yeah, we felt it talking to Dee as well. And you would imagine the athletes, it is only larger. Okay, let's turn our attention to rotation 2. Auburn on vault and LSU on the bars. Skylar Shepard will begin things. The senior from Plano, Texas, vaulted for the first time in 3 years last week, trying to bounce back from a 9-6 against Alabama.
She's doing a Yurchenko layout half. Wow. She hit the safety zone really hard. Check this out. When she did her round off, her whole foot is on the yellow. She missed the board.
That off. Ooh.
Sometimes when you have a lot of adrenaline, your steps are longer and you completely miss the board like that. Wow, that's disappointing.
That's something, Sam, that Jeff Graba talked to us about, especially with Skylar. Little bit too much adrenaline, a little too amped up, and we did see it there. So Kaya Johnson will begin things as this is her second event of the night, competing in the all-around.
A little shy on that last handstand. Finishing with a huge double layout. Again, just a hop on the landing, but even though she does have a little hop deduction, she lands with her chest vertical, so it makes it look really nice. Stretches her hips. Just needs to sink into that mat a little bit more, and I know that's what Jay Clark is going to tell her. She's so powerful, she has to focus a little bit more on that control.
Kaya did have a 9.925 to begin her meet, and so we'll see how that helps her or hurts her in the all-around. Jada Glenn, junior from Aurora, Colorado. Her only event last year here on vault.
She has a Yurchenko 1.5, but coaches say they're playing it safe early in the season with her Yurchenko full. Looks like she wasn't sure if the judges were ready for her or not. Hoping a teammate might step in at this point.
Skylar Shepard posted a 9.5, so right away, again, the top 2 in every rotation for Jeff Grava are up for grabs, and you want to see someone outperform, someone win a spot. Shepard with the 9-5 didn't quite do that, and now Jada Glenn ready to go.
Looking for a big Yurchenko full. That's what they needed to get this Auburn vault lineup back on track. Maybe she needed a little icing before her vault. This is a really solid Yurchenko layout full. Twist a little early off the table, but able to find a clean landing there. And they need that score.
And a 9.95 starting value at that. Kaya Johnson posted a 9.8. Very solid routine to begin the bars for LSU. Bridget Dean now, the junior from Fort Myers, has not competed on bars yet this season.
She's replacing Alona Shinikova, who just isn't quite ready for this bar lineup yet.
Bridget looked great in warm-ups.
Really nice routine so far. Really fighting for all of those handstands. We know that's a point of emphasis, especially from Jake Clark. That is the best bar routine she could have done for this team. Jay said she's been working on that in the gym.
Can you give her the crown?
Double layout, of course, looking to clean that up here, but finds a clean landing, and Jay is going to be happy with that one.
I think the entire team will be. 9.8 for Jada Glenn, a big bounce-back performance on vault for the Tigers a moment ago, and now Gracie Day. Competed in every vault lineup last year, a 9.825 last week.
She's going to be the first 10-0 vault for this Auburn team. We're going to see a Yurchenko 1.5. Oh. That is not good news for Auburn.
When you start with a 9.5, the next 5 just have to hit, don't they?
Yeah, she wasn't on in warm-ups. You see she twisted extremely early, didn't quite get enough block off the table, and the rotation was short there at the end. Oh.
What's the feeling they're going through her mind?
Man, it's just a bummer when you do that. You know the team was counting on your score. It's not a good place for them to be in here.
She'll move on, and now Kai Rivers. 3 junior Olympic Nationals bar titles. They might be young, but these LSU Tigers are super talented.
She's only doing 3 events because she's still fighting through that ankle injury, but she's got a jam-packed, difficult bar routine here with that depache release move late in the bar routine. Finishing double layout. For a freshman to step up, not only to compete at this level, but to add that amount of difficulty in. Here's the double layout dismount. I love her position in that. She's very stretched, just needs to stay down. I saw Jay push on her shoulders in warm-up to remind her the feeling of what a stick feels like.
Just absorb it a little bit more there?
Yeah, just absorb that mat.
A 9.275 for Gracie Day. So at this point for Auburn, they're going to have to count the 9.5. And now Cassie Stevens.
Yurchenko 1.5. She fought for that landing too. Didn't quite get the rotation she needed. But at this point, they're just looking to land on their feet.
Career high 9.825 for Kai Rivers. So a 9.8, 9.775, 9.825 for LSU. And Sammy Durante will try to continue that good work. Won the bars title in her hometown last week with a 9.85. That last name sounds familiar to you gymnastics fans. Of course, the daughter of former Georgia head coach Dana Durante. What a feeling that must have been to win in her hometown.
When we were speaking to Jake Clark, co-head coach, about the bar lineup, he said, you know, it's not perfect. We're hoping to get Alona back in the lineup, but someone like Sammy and the rest of the lineup can really knock it out of the park here.
Depending on those upperclassmen, Durante's certainly one of them, having to replace 4 huge seniors.
Tuck full in, spots the landing.
That might be the loudest cheer we've heard all evening.
That's a good routine from Sammy Durrani. Here's that Jaeger release move. She was a little close. You saw her arms bend slightly. She pulled the rhythm back on and finishes with the highlight of the routine. Tuck pull and dismount.
And now the pressure is on Drew Watson, who has had 2 straight 9-9s to open up this season.
Well, she's tied for 4th individually on this event. Of course, it's the beginning of the season, but she's someone that could contend, especially on vault at the end of the season. Another Yurchenko 1.5. Oh. And it's not what we saw last week from her.
Or from the team, to be honest with you, here on vault. That was a strong lineup for them last week.
Here's the Yurchenko 1.5. Isn't as quick to get that rotation as she was last week. Does a nice job of fighting for the landing, but Alex, you and I watched warm-up, and they struggled more than they showed in this competition.
It doesn't always happen that way, right? I mean, sometimes you don't warm up great, you perform well. It's kind of been the opposite so far, unfortunately, for Auburn.
Yeah, you can see they were just fighting those landings, fighting that rotation throughout the beginning to all the way to the end.
Kennedy Edney coming off a bit of a disappointing 9.775 last week at Georgia. She's an All-American on bars the last 2 seasons. How about a 9.875 for Sammy Durrani?
She's typically great at hitting her handstands. Locks out that high to low bail. That looks really good to the judges. Again, locks that last handstand. The longer you hold, the more definite you're going to get it from the judges. All I can say, it's too easy for her at this point. She's got to add some more difficulty to spice it up for herself, because phenomenal job for her.
And now the crown has been transferred to the new queen.
She does a great job of getting her hips over the bar, completely vertical, and of course, that dismount, she knows exactly where she is to lock in that landing.
A great chance for the senior Edney to be one of the most decorated gymnasts in LSU history, and that is saying a lot when you talk about the Tigers. Darian Gobourne bounced back from a 9-0 week 1, a 9.875 against Alabama. Oh, they needed that.
Yurchenko 1.5. Again, 10-0 start value, but it's not often you see her run out of momentum and power. She took a step back here, which actually is unique for this powerful athlete. Sometimes, again, you're going too much for that stick position, and it hurts your rotation.
I was going to say, if anything, she usually over-rotates.
Absolutely.
So it has been a bit of a rough second rotation for Auburn. We'll have to see what the final score is for Darian Gobourne. But Drew Watson posted just a 9.625 after that huge step, and now Ruby Harold and really put the hammer down with a good routine here.
Got lots of unique skills right from the beginning.
9.9 for Kennedy Edney.
She's a quick gymnast. Nice above the bar, Jaeger release move, finishing double front, took a step forward. I saw her stick a couple in warm-ups, hoping to replicate that in meets, but nice anchor for Ruby Harold. Above the bar, Jaeger, just slightly close, but that's being really picky. And of course, line to double front. Looks like a couple of them just need to sink into their landings a little bit more on bars.
I would say Didi Bro would be happy with that rotation, though, as Harold closes it off in style. LSU leading Auburn after 2 rotations in Baton Rouge. Up with a parade coming tomorrow.
Well, you can see the effects on the gymnastics team. There's pros and cons here. The pros is that they have to be so fired up from this national championship team and excited to compete this weekend. The cons are, it might have been a little bit of a distraction. Didi told us that half her team dates football players, so they were probably celebrating a little bit this week too.
And LSU and Didi Bro hoping that they can follow it up with the national championship themselves in 2020. We'll be back with much more. LSU heads to the beam with a big lead over Auburn after 2 rotations at home at the PMAC. 49-4 on Volta, 49-2-7-5 on bars for LSU, and out to a big lead over Auburn here at home in the SEC. Now let's take a look at Greatness is in the Grind, brought to you by Regions Bank.
Well, last week, LSU was lights out, national championship quality on beam, and they didn't even hit 6 for 6. They hit 5 for 6. The last 5 competitors were lights out. Stuck landings, sharp landings, extension on the leaps, and they're hoping to repeat that here today. Of course, having to show up after a fall, their best was needed, and they delivered here.
49-5-7-5 is not too shabby in just your second meet of the season, and we'll see what they can do, the number 12 beam rotation in the country. Here as they head to beam, and Auburn goes to floor, and here is who we will see for LSU, that is Bridget Dean, then Kai Rivers, Sammy Durante, who is excellent on bars once again for a second straight week. Kennedy Edney just posted a 9-9, and she is the favorite so far to win the all-around, and Kaya Johnson not too far behind. First time we'll get to see Reagan Campbell has moved from the 5 spot down to the anchor after she was absolutely tremendous on beam last week, that is.
Well, there's a lot of things that we're going to be looking for on beam, but the points of emphasis are, of course, that 180-degree leadboard jump, the acro series, and, of course, the landing on the dismount.
So we'll see if Bridget Dean, the sophomore, can bounce back. She fell, as we mentioned, to start things off with a 9.25. It was a surprise to Dee Bro. She had a great summer of training and clearly still has all the confidence in the world in Bridget Dean as she takes one more breath and gets ready to begin the rotation.
Well, they said that they're waiting for Christina Desiderito to be back in the lineup. She has a groin issue, but this first spot is typically hers. Bridget Dean wasn't able to do her job last weekend, but sometimes the team, especially on beam, needs a little bit more pressure to rise to the occasion, and it looks like that was the case for LSU on beam last week. I'm sure Bridget Dean does not want to have another mistake, though.
Again, just a sophomore. This is a very young team with both Kaya Johnson and Kai Rivers being freshmen. LSU trying to replace 4 seniors coming off of that national title runner-up. They were oh so close to Oklahoma, but couldn't get over the hump. And expect this team maybe not to make a monumental stride forward at the end of the year, but to take significant steps as the year goes on.
Of course, the leadoff performer on beam has arguably the most important role, setting the tone for the team. You want to make everyone in lineup feel comfortable. They typically don't have the flashiest routine, but that side aerial back handspring is a really difficult series to start things off for her.
At 49.575 on beam last week, LSU's highest score on beam in January ever.
So they like a little bit of pressure on beam. See if they can put up a higher number with Bridget hitting a routine, and of course, right as I say that, she misses that front aerial connection. So she stays on the beam, but it was not a perfect routine for her. Here's that side aerial back handspring. Really nice, sharp finish position there, and this is where a little bit of the problems came. Front aerial, she doesn't use her arms to pull herself back up, but was able to finish the routine nicely.
And a nice hug from Dee. LSU looking great so far, up almost a point. They are 9/10 right now ahead. Sabrina Cheney will start things off. Cheney, her first ever start. She did exhibition last season, but an incredibly hard worker that has earned this type of opportunity.
Whipped double back. quick to that landing position. Jeff Graba says he's still trying to figure out who this spot is going to belong to in the long term. He's hoping someone is going to step up today and earn this spot.
It was Emma Slappy's last week against Alabama. You would think that 8-9, though, came into his mind, and she's been scratched. She was supposed to go second. Instead, it's going to be Cassie Stevens coming in her spot right after this.
Your teammates right in her ear in that corner. Sometimes you need a little bit more momentum to get you through. She needed a little more adrenaline there.
You have to feel like at this point, Sam, Jeff is a little disappointed because he wants the top of their rotations to start off with a 9-8 or better, and neither of the three have done that so far.
This is round up with half to 1.5. It'll be interesting to see what the judges do with that. If she hit her knees on the floor or not. Of course, if she hits her knees, it will be a fall, but if not, it's still going to be a significant deduction with how low she was twisting.
LSU looking for a bit of revenge as well. Fell to Auburn on the road last season. Kai Rivers a 9.95 last week at Georgia, which was the first time in college she'd ever received a 10 from a judge. And remember, that was right after Bridget Dean fell, and there's no doubt, Sam, that Kai set the tone for that rotation.
And to show up like that as a freshman, that gives the coaches just a little bit of confidence looking towards postseason.
And this event is all about confidence.
Look how sharp she is when she finishes her skills.
What impresses you the most?
Just how her arms are so sharp. They're in the right place when she lands. That helps to eliminate the deductions. You see she was completely crooked there, but was able to get to that landing position, that finish position, very quickly. I think it wasn't as good as her last week's routine, but that was a pretty good routine. Of course, we're looking at a freshman here.
It's hard to believe sometimes.
Here's that side aerial. Her hips were completely crooked, but was able to pull it back on. This tells me she's a fighter. Finishes that routine like nothing happened.
So the pressure is once again on Auburn. Another rotation, it is not going to let up one bit. 9.525 for Sabrina Cheney. And here is Cassie Stevens.
Well, Jeff Graba said they were warming up 9 people on floor. He had a lineup in his head that he wanted them to compete, but he said, if they mess up on warm-ups, we have standards. We're going to put in the best people possible.
So this also means, Sam, that Cassie Stevens, I guess pun intended, vaults herself into the all-around competition with her competing now in everything. And you see that 9.85 pop up for LSU's Kai Rivers. 9.75, 9.85 on beam so far. And this is coming off a 49.4 on vault and a 49.275 on bars.
Front layout to Rudy. Really nice landings here. Of course, she wasn't slated to be in this lineup, but she's a freshman, so her body is typically healthier than the rest of the lineup, and she's a little hungry to compete in this LSU arena for the first time.
Difficult to do that mentally, though?
No, I think it's more exciting. The adrenaline is going to get you through this routine, and looks like she had a nice routine there.
Yeah, put me in, coach. Cassie Stevens was ready to play.
Beam score for the LSU Tigers, Kai Rivers, 9.85.
Starting off with a round-up back handspring double pike. Want to see her get her chest up a little bit higher when her feet hit the ground, especially on this last pass, but settling that lunge position at the end is always a good thing for that judge.
Sammy Durante coming off a 9.85 last week at Georgia.
Starting off with front aerial, split jump, and of course break in that connection, which might possibly affect her start value. Back handspring layout. Ooh. It is so hard to have a wobble on your very first skill and forget about it. And you can see that wobble translated into a fall on the next skill that she did.
Durante had a great start to her night. Competes on bars and beam at a 9.875 on bars. And so the 9.75 by Bridget Dean definitely coming into play. They'll have to count that for LSU.
She's doing a good job staying sharp now. But you can just tell in her demeanor how disappointed that she is. Of course, coming off of that huge beam score from last weekend. Side arrow, back layout full. That's the tough thing about gymnastics. You can't pass the ball when you start to get a little crooked. It's just you on the beam by yourself having to make these adjustments physically and also mentally. Here's that back handspring layout. Her hip just got completely sideways and she wasn't able to pull it back on. Sometimes you react and make the wobble a little bit bigger and turn it into a fall, unfortunately.
All right, so the door opened just a touch now for Auburn, and we'll see if Aria Brush can take advantage. A 9.575 in her first ever collegiate meet at the Collegiate Challenge, appropriately named. But she came back with a 9.875 against Alabama, which set the tone for the rest of the rotation.
Round off back handspring, full in, able to stay in bounds barely.
What are we calling that? Cassie Stevens followed up Sabrina Cheney's 9.525 with a 9.825.
Aria is a freshman that I think is going to be underrated here, but she has been competing, I guess, 3 meets now and doing a really great job for them, putting up high numbers, doing difficulty, and she's proof of what Jeff Graba said, and that's that their recruiting has gotten to the point where they're built and have big name athletes. She's competed in the elite world, she's competed in high pressure situations, and it's going to be good for them for the next 4 years. Finishing double pike. Like she crunched a little bit on a round-off back handspring, but she's one of those tough, gritty athletes that can pull out a hit routine out of any sort of round-off back handspring. Throwing big difficulty. This is an E-tumbling pass. Full in. Nearly goes out of bounds, but saves it. You can see in her face she was going, ooh.
She kept it on the line, though.
Yeah. Dancing her way into bounds, I guess I should say.
And here is Kennedy Edney, 9.925 in the anchor spot last week at Georgia. And at this point, she is just ahead of Kaya Johnson for the all-around by a 10th.
Now, if there's someone that you want to go after a fall, I would want Kennedy Edney. She is such a gamer. She seems to do almost better when there's more pressure on her.
What makes Kennedy Edney so good, sorry Sam, is according to Dee Bro, she's such a good athlete, and her physical skills just take over.
And as strong and as powerful as she is, she's really light on beam, which makes her stand out.
36 individual titles coming into this season. Is that good?
Just a little bit. Front toss in a pike position.
That's really difficult, isn't it?
She brings a lot to this team, but a big thing that she brings to this team is a sense of security when she competes. They know she's going to stick her landing. She's going to be on every single time she salutes, and this is just one more example of that. Of course, front aerial, strong arm positions throughout that combination. And a dismount, round off 1.5. She has just been able to find that stick landing out of any position, which of course is a huge asset. You always want an athlete that can finish with a stick.
She has not gone below 9-9 yet through the first rotations. We await her score on beam.
Of course, the points of emphasis we're looking for here on floor are artistry, power, and landings after the tumbling passes. Skylar Shepard is someone that can put up a really big number for this Auburn team.
Shepard began the run of 3 straight 9-9s or better to end the meet against Alabama. Gymnast that started her career at Arizona.
Nice 1.5 to lay out.
She says when she transferred to Auburn, it just brought her love of gymnastics back. Jeff Grava can do that.
Yeah, he's a really good technical coach, but he likes them to have a lot of fun too.
Aria Brush with a 9-9 a moment ago following Cassie Stevens' 9.825.
Skylar's going to finish with an E-tumbling pass. Really difficult, a triple full. Working on getting it all the way around. And that was even better than the one she did last weekend. Looks like she's gaining a little bit more confidence there on that last pass. A little bit more endurance. Really great routine for Skylar Shepard. Of course, bars, beam, and floor are starting from a 9.4, but she gets an extra 10 bonus from that triple full, which is why she only has 2 tumbling passes in her floor routine. Big tumbling pass to finish. Auburn's going to be extremely pleased with her solidifying that spot in the lineup.
Sam, this is kind of becoming a mirror image of last week. Cassie Stevens 9.825 after Sabrina Cheney started with a bit of a disappointing 9.525, 3 straight hits, and then you've got the always dependable Drew Watson and Darian Goldborn to come. Now Kaya Johnson competing in the all-around. Again, she was a 10th behind Kennedy Edney for that championship in this meet.
Usually powerful athletes have a tough time on beam because they are bouncing around, but not Kaya. Her heels were completely off the beam on that back handspring layout, and she doesn't react. She just moves completely on to the next skill. Coaches say that she's methodical in the gym, and I think Dee Dee Rowe gave her the best compliment you could give a freshman, and that is saying that she has the same mental qualities of Sarah Finnegan. What a compliment coming in here.
But even earlier than Sarah did, because she didn't do all around her freshman year.
Right. This is going to be a name to be watching for the next 4 years.
The reigning beam champion at JO Nationals.
Now, this isn't a perfect routine for her, but if this is the most amount of mistakes she's going to make in a competition beam lineup and finishing like that, what a rock star for their beam lineup.
Keeping right up with Kennedy Edney's 9.9 a moment ago.
Now, check this out. Look at her heels when she lands. Back handspring layout. Her heels were completely off the beam. She doesn't even wobble. Finishing, highlight, round off, double full, pulls it together for that stick.
So what changes when you can't land with your heels? How are you able to stay on the beam so well as she just did?
She's just that talented. She's able to make those adjustments without wobbling.
Because it's a leg up, Alex. Here's Drew Watson. 27th career start on floor, a 9-9 last week against Alabama.
Like she's going for the difficulty, double Arabian. They've been wanting to put that in competition. That's her first time doing her E pass to start off with.
How much more does that give her?
It doesn't actually give her anything more, just difficulty points in the judge's
Sure,
eyes.
exactly. Brush and Shepard both with 9-9s. We have really seen all of these athletes for LSU and Auburn recently turn it on. 4 straight 9-9s between the two teams.
Big 1.5 to lay out. She's tied for 13th individually on floor. And she's ranked 11th in the all-around rankings right now. This is where that endurance comes into play. Have you done enough endurance sets in the gym to make your last pass? And it looks like she did. She actually had too much power. Missed her foot there on the lunge. Sometimes if you just get so excited, you make little errors like that. She's going to be a little disappointed in herself from that stumble. Here's the round off back handspring, double Arabian. I'd like to see her turn over just a little bit more so she doesn't land as deep as she did here. But again, sometimes it's just about getting the nerves out of the way and putting in a competition setting for the first time.
Reagan Campbell, the junior, won her second beam title at LSU last week. Career high tying 9.975 at Georgia. Dede Bro told us it's the best routine I've seen her do. And because of that, she's moved to the anchor slot. Just as I say that.
Very strange things happening on beam. It didn't even look like she was crooked there, and she was off the beam.
This is following 2 9-9s from Kennedy Edney and Kaya Johnson.
The other thing that this means, and a full turn.
Are they going to have to count the 9-8 or the 8-9-7-5 from Sammy Durante now?
They're going to have to count a fall for sure. And sometimes athletes that aren't used to making mistakes in competitions or practice, when they do have a little scenario, it's hard for them to get back in the rhythm and back in the groove of things because they're just so disappointed in themselves.
Well, Sam, you know what this means. This meet is once again in the balance after LSU was up by basically 9/10 after 2 rotations.
Big pop on the landing. She looked just as shocked as we were on that back handspring layout. It happened so fast. This is a good angle to see where things went wrong. And it looks like she actually just went to step and fell. Nothing was wrong with her back handspring layout, which I'm sure upset her even more. What a disappointing beam routine.
And you know that Darian knows what just happened, and she
loves it.
She absolutely thrives on this. She won floor last week, a 9.95, which clinched Auburn's first win over Alabama since 2016. And she is one of the defending national champions on vault. But if you actually look at the numbers, this is her best event.
And I think the one that she enjoys the most. Just watch her.
If she doesn't own a floor routine, I'm not sure who does.
Open double tuck. So much power. That's going to be a pretty big deduction because both of her feet stepped out of bounds.
Another surprise. This has been a wacky third rotation. Drew Watson posted a 9.8 right before Darian. And Reagan Campbell had a 9.125 on beam for LSU, so the 8.975 from Sammy Durante dropped, but that 9.125 has to be counted. That is going to bring their rotation score way down.
energy level dropped just a little bit from Darion here. Oh, she's bringing it back up now for the final pass. Finishes double pike, nails that landing. And watch how she walks off the floor.
There's the crown.
Holding the crown. I love it. Coaches say she brings so much slack to this team, and she actually gives the team permission to be great.
She is going to be known eventually throughout the country as just Darion. Throwaway go-born. She's going to be a one-namer. So Skylar Shepard for Auburn has been fantastic all season long on floor. She tied a career high with a 9-9 here. And then a little point. Was that to me? Rouge, LSU up by just by a 10th over Auburn. And for the Tigers, it does not get much easier here. Sam, they have an absolute gauntlet to run through in the beginning of this season. We talked about LSU. They did beat Alabama, but then 4 straight ranked teams in a row, and that culminates with number 2 Florida. But the SEC every meet is going to be tough.
Well, even though Jeff Graba did say his schedule was tough and definitely front-loaded, he was excited for the challenge. He said that they need to continue to compete against tough teams to gain confidence and to gain that comfortability throughout the rest of the season.
Auburn is certainly hoping that it is going to be a different season than last year in a good way. It was a transcendent season, just finishing 1 meet behind Florida for the SEC championship. The score extremely close now here between LSU and Auburn after LSU posted just a 48 5-2-5 on beam. We have the 4th rotation to come up. Auburn is on beam where they will try to upset LSU. It would be their 2nd straight upset in the last 2 weeks. And for LSU, the ever-dependable Kennedy Edney, as well as the fabulous freshman, Kaya Johnson.
Was drowning in quicksand. Nobody grabbed my hand. Thought it buried me. Instead I'm set free. I got fire under my feet, and I feel it in my heartbeat. Oh, God, get out of the place if you can't take the heat.
Welcome back to Baton Rouge. Alex Perlman, Sam Peshek back with you. Not as dapperly dressed as that gentleman. I don't know where you get those glasses, but I certainly want them. And we have ourselves a meet, just 2/10 the lead for LSU. Earlier, though, right here on Friday Night Heights on SEC Network, we saw Florida and Missouri. Another good performance for the Gators, and as usual, Sam, all about Trinity Thomas.
She has no built-in deduction, so if she finds a way to control her landings, she's going to put up a big number every single time on every event. She's a pretty unique gymnast because she's powerful. Look at that double layout. But she's also has the flexibility and the artistry. It's the perfect combination of a gymnast.
So another standout week for Florida. And as we enter the 4th rotation, there is so much on the line, and now it's going to be tested for Auburn because they're going to need 5 great scores to make up that 2/10 that they trail by right now to LSU. Emma Slappy will begin things. She's had 2 straight 9-8s to open up the year, so usually, Sam, this is a good one to open.
And the mistakes that we're seeing both from LSU and Auburn, I think really shows their youth here. But it's going to be telling to see how they respond here on this last event with a lot of pressure on the line.
Didi told us she was looking for more consistency from this team. At times they've been outstanding, at times not so much. And again, it's been another inconsistent night for the Tigers, but they could end it on a high note here on floor.
Well, LSU was good on beam last weekend, but I felt this was an event that they could really clean up. they have the potential to improve landing their skills sharper and cleaning up some of their form deductions. Excuse me, Auburn on beam.
Emma graduated in summer 2018. She's been done for a while, currently in grad school for a career in corporate wellness. Staying on to help the Tigers potentially make the NCAA finals.
She has a pretty slow rhythm here, but quick enough to get that connection bonus. Finishing pitch kicks, side aerial, back tuck full. Really good landing to get things going. They like her first because she has a short routine and it's right to the point. She gets on and gets off.
That certainly sets the tone there for Auburn. And it is floor time indeed here inside the PMAC. Ruby Harold to begin things. Floor is something that LSU has pretty much solidified at this point in the season, now using the same lineup both meets. I think you can tell Ruby Harold is a fan favorite. The English native, two-time Olympian for Great Britain, has tried to fill the leadership void a bit, left by those four seniors. Sarah Finnegan, of course, is going to get all the accolades, but the life of this team was McKenna Kelly.
And floor was her event. They're really missing her energy right about now. Coaches say that Ruby's been doing such a good job leading this team, talking to the freshmen, in Didi's words, reminding them that the world is not going to end if you make one little mistake. Double pike. Her heel hit, but I wonder if the judges are going to take that out of bounds. It's a 1/10 deduction if your foot is outside the lines.
Sam, you did it. How do you go from being an Olympian to competing in college?
It's so much fun. It's a completely different atmosphere.
Get the real sense of team in college. And you get to compete in front of these fans here in Baton Rouge.
Good, 1.5 to lay out. Really nice routine from Ruby Harold. The biggest deduction that I saw in this routine was her potential out of bounds step.
And that really could go either way. It depends what the judges are thinking.
She does double pike and her heel hits, but she brings it up depending on which angle the judges saw. Of course, it's a subjective sport. There is no replays for the judges here. She did a good job selling the rest of the routine. I don't know, maybe the judges might forget about that one.
Emma Slappy posted a 9.8 to begin things on beam for Auburn. Aria Brush a 9.7 last week.
Head coach Jeff Graba told us that he wanted to see the first athlete score a 9.8 or better on each event, and they finally achieved that on their last event. Back handspring layout. Of course, coming from the elite world, she had a ton of skills to choose from, so I asked Ashley Priest-Johnson, their beam coach, how did you pick which skills to use? She said they just tried to choose the ones that were the least amount of deductions, keeping this routine as clean as possible.
A disappointing vault. The second rotation for Auburn with a 48.575, followed it up with a 49.2 on floor, and it's been a great start on beam for the Tigers.
That was a really good routine from Aria Brush. No major wobbles, no major deductions. That is what they want to see for these scores to build from start to finish. Back handspring layout, pulls it straight up, no problems there. Solidifies this routine, round of 1.5, pulls it together for a college chick.
Remember, it was a 2/10 deficit for Auburn heading into the fourth rotation. Ruby Harold posted a 9.85. And here is Olivia Gunter, the junior from Mandeville, Louisiana, a small city north of New Orleans on Lake Pontchartrain. And if you heard by the roar that she got, everybody rooting for the only gymnast competing tonight from the state of Louisiana.
Starting with double Arabian. Looking to control that landing just a bit more. Speaking of McKenna Kelly, I called her and asked her to tell me about this team here. And she said, well, Olivia Gunter, even though I'm not there, she was my little sidekick in terms of bringing the energy. So this is who is going to be the heartbeat of this team this year.
And they do need someone to fill that leadership void. Because in college, that's a really important aspect. Were you the leader of those UCLA teams?
Sometimes, certain years.
You had a plethora of gymnasts to choose from now.
Finishing strong double back. Not only do you feel the energy of your teammates, but being on your home turf here in PMAC, seeing the fans go crazy, that adds extra adrenaline too, especially going for those last passes. Finishing with a really strong double back. No problems there.
Ending on a great note and leaving a very positive image in the judges' minds. So a 10th separating Kennedy Edney and Kaya Johnson. Cassie Stevens finishing out her night after she was sent into the all-around competition when she was added to the floor rotation. You will see a very unique skill coming up for Miss Stevens.
She's just doing a back handspring layout, but she has a really nice back handspring layout, and this is when the coaches were talking about they want to hit a solid lineup so they have the possibility to add in those potential risks. Right now, they just don't feel like they can do that.
Posted a 9.75 in her first career beam routine last week. And that was the Stevens. She held on.
She never wobbles on that skill. That was, maybe something's going on the actual beam. Maybe it's a crooked beam because we're seeing a lot of uncharacteristic things both from Auburn and LSU today. Finishing 1.5. I mean, on one hand, it was impressive to me that she was able to stay on. Look at that position. She fought for that tooth and nail. And picks up right where she left off.
And next for LSU, please welcome Sarah Edwards.
Now Sarah Edwards, who is trying to batter a 9.65 last week at Georgia. Ruby Harold and Olivia Gunter have started with 9.85s for LSU. So far for Auburn on beam, a 9.8 and a 9.875, trying to make up 2/10.
Starting with a double layout. Too much power out of that. Good shapes in the air. She actually upgraded that just last week. She had too much power on the first pass, not enough power on the second pass. Looking to find a good clean landing here on that third one.
Can that be tough, Sam, trying a third pass to finish things off when the first two haven't gone perfectly?
Yeah, forgetting about it, staying in the moment. Short-term memory is important here. No problems there.
That was her best of the routine.
from Sarah Edwards. The only thing she needs is just a little more confidence and strong positions on her landings. It's a lot of little deductions that add up over time. Here's the double layout, that's new. And of course, that's what we call a good mistake, having too much power instead of under-rotating it, not having enough power.
Here's Meredith Sylvia, who's a beam specialist for Auburn. 9-9 against Alabama. She bounced back from a 9.625 in her first game of this season. So it's got 9-8, 9.75, 9.875 so far on beam for Auburn, hoping to drop Cassie Stevens' score.
Yeah, and a 9.75 isn't normally bad, but of course, this is coming down to the last event, and LSU is looking strong on floor. Nice front aerial, full twisting swing down. Is so beautiful to watch on this event, not just with her dance, but also with her skills.
Competed on beam 14 times last year, both events this season.
I love her strong positions when she finishes those skills.
She just exudes confidence.
Not only good for her routine, but that's really good for the lineup. Little unneeded hop there at the end, but scored a 9-9 last weekend and looks to be another good score for her.
Tuesday, Florida takes on LSU at the Maravich Center right here in Baton Rouge. The Gators have won 4 of the last 5 against the Tigers the last 3 seasons. 7 Eastern, 6 Central, right here on the SEC Network and the ESPN app. And I would imagine everyone will still be recovering from the weekend's festivities with the parade for the Football National Championship happening tomorrow morning. I don't think anything will be over by Tuesday. Reagan Campbell, the junior from Dallas, 9.75 last week in Georgia. And so far, nothing less than a 9.8 on floor for LSU.
Nice 2.5 to get things going, dancing out of it. She brings that gracefulness not only to her artistry and the choreography, but also to her tumbling.
And they just posted Meredith Sylvia's score, a 9.9, so that gets Auburn right back in the game.
Of course, Reagan Campbell is a Texas Dream kid, so she was coached by Hims Mescal Burdette.
Kaya Johnson, who we'll see also from Texas Dreams. She's got a chance in the all-around against Kennedy Edney, with Edney up by just a 10th. And those are the last 2 to go on floor. There's so much on the line still.
Finishing double pike. This is going to be a good score for them.
Look at Dee Dee.
Well, when we spoke to Jay Clark before the meet, he said we're really last pass conscious right now. The double backs have been a little bit short, but we purposely moved the training back, but he predicted that tonight they were going to be just perfect on those last passes. And it looks like it's going that direction. Nice 2.5. And of course, this double pike finishing last pass. Nice way to end for Reagan Campbell.
This is a team that looks like a national runner-up. They are finishing well on floor. 2 9.85s and a 9.8. We'll see what Reagan Campbell's score is. And now Drew Watson. Strong routine last week with a 9.875. 9.9 for Reagan Campbell. And as soon as LSU opened that door, they are starting to close it shut.
Back handspring layout. Drew looks a little off here. You can tell she's wiggling just a little bit on her choreography.
Do you think she's looked a touch off the entire night on everything?
Yeah.
Especially after last week, she was sensational.
I'd like to see her hide it a little bit better, but her skills look great still. This is where that mental aspect of gymnastics comes into play. Finishing 1.5, really crooked, but able to pull it up for a good landing.
The thing is, just off for Drew Watson is still pretty darn good.
Starts off with a back handspring layout, working on getting those knees straight. And here's that crooked. She almost misses her back feet, but does a nice job playing it off there at the end.
Trying to follow up Meredith Sylvia's 9-9. And now Kennedy Edney, a 17-time All-American. She's the all-around leader by a 10th over her teammate Kaya Johnson. An All-American 4 times on floor.
Kennedy Edney.
Coaches say that she walks in day to day. She's not a vocal presence, but she's just an athlete that competes really hard. So looking forward to this floor routine.
Where does her athleticism come from? Partly because she's the daughter of former UCLA basketball star Tyus Edney, who won a national championship for your Bruins back in 1995, Sam.
Big fan of that. Double Arabian, steps out of bounds. You see the judge put her hand up there. 1/10 automatically.
And so that might open the door up for her teammate Johnson, finishing things off in a moment on floor to maybe win an all-around championship.
Stays in bounds there.
Regardless, LSU still bouncing back very nicely from that 48-525 on beam. You feel how tense this arena is right now?
They know it's coming down to the last couple competitors. She needs to hit a good last pass. And she does. That was a great double back to end this routine. You don't get extra points for finishing in a stick, but it's definitely the pizzazz factor that the judges look for.
And there's no doubt about it, it fired up the crowd here in Baton Rouge.
Would have been a nearly perfect routine except for this out of bounds, big open double Arabian. You could see her face. She couldn't control it there. And of course, the highlight for me was that last pass. She knows exactly where she is in the air.
This is exactly who Jeff Grable wants to see in the anchor spot with a potential win on the line. Shepard took the beam title against Alabama, a 9.925 in the anchor spot. But he told us his entire team thrives on pressure.
Starting off with a back handspring layout. Another one of those athletes that lands so light on the beam.
Drew Watson posted a 9.875 right before her. As of now, they would drop Cassie Stevens' 9.75, and everything else has been a 9.8 or better, including a 9.9.
Pitch kick side aerial. Didn't get her chest up on the landing there, but does a good job moving on. She's so light and calm during this beam routine. You can see why they chose her for the anchor spot. And right as I say that, she wobbles on a full turn.
And you know that Kaya Johnson is coming on floor for LSU. Capable of putting up anywhere from, I mean, really anything, but potentially a 10.
Finishing back handspring, 1.5. Does a good job getting her feet under there that last second. It's not the best routine we've seen, though, from Skylar Shepard.
Well, surprisingly at this point, LSU is poised to drop Kennedy Edney's 9.775, and it all comes down to Kaya Johnson, a 9.875. Potentially would tie her for the all-around with Kennedy Edney. She was just a 10th behind. You would have to say, a great shot for Kaya Johnson right here to win the all-around. She came from the same gym we talked about at Texas Dreams as former LSU floor specialist Lavincia Hall, who, if you've never seen her work the floor, it was a thing of beauty, raw power.
Really nice opening, tumbling pass, full in, legs glued together. She's done such a good job staying composed throughout this entire meet. Not even needing to take the lunge position on that second pass.
A 9.7 from Kaya Johnson gives LSU another SEC win. Skylar Shepard had a 9.825 on beam for Auburn.
It's all coming down to this last pass. Huge double pike. No problem to that lunge. This was a nearly perfect routine. I didn't see any deductions, but we'll have to see what the judges do here.
With everything on the line for her team and the individual all-around, Kaya Johnson delivers.
Talk about a good freshman coming into the lineups and being as productive as she's been, especially in the anchor spots. Seems like almost nothing phases her.
Only a freshman. The crown is hers. It is well-deserved.
The crowd is chanting for a 10 here.
It's going to be pretty close. I can tell you one thing. I can't see it being less than a 9.875.
9.975. She got a 10 from one judge. That's what that means.
And it is an all-around championship for Kaya Johnson and a win for LSU over Auburn. Sam and I are back to wrap this thing up. An exciting night of gymnastics in Baton Rouge. And a win for the LSU Tigers. Final few gymnasts here in Baton Rouge. LSU able to pull out the win. They move to 2-0 in the SEC, taking down Auburn 196.575 to 196.275. Bouncing back from a very tough beam rotation. It was not exactly what they wanted to see. Their lowest beam score at home since 2011 with a 48.525. But Sam, they got the win largely thanks to the performance of maybe their biggest piece this year, the senior Kennedy Edney.
She was rock solid from start to finish. Starting with this Yurchenko 1.5. She made it look so easy. Going to bars, finishing that double layout dismount. Of course, receiving the stick crown. And on beam, where she's powerful, but also light on the beam, which makes her unique. And finishing on floor, she actually would have gotten a higher score had she stayed in bounds on this double Arabian. Of course, finishing 1.5 to front layout.
39.5, not too bad, but unfortunately for her, not for the team score, but individually, Kaya Johnson just that little bit better.
Well, they say iron sharpens iron, and her and Kennedy are an amazing 1-2 punch. She was strong again from start to finish, and she's only a freshman. She does a good job adapting, getting her chest up on the landing, and having a lot of fun on this floor rotation.
And that was with the meet on the line as well. She needed a 39, or rather a 9.7 or better to win it, and she did with a 9.975. Not a bad way to close out the night for the freshman in her first career home SEC meet. That will do it for us here in Baton Rouge. LSU over Auburn for their second SEC win. Coming up next, we'll take you to the College Football National Championship in a re-air of LSU and Clemson. With Sam Peshek, I'm Alex Perlman. So long from Baton Rouge.